Toby, I said that today's topic was being caught in between two societies. Did you feel that way?
Yes, because I've had Indian friends, and I went to their land, and a lot of Indians that didn't know me, you know that feeling when you approach them. But the families that it took me across, knowing them, it wasn't the same. But when you cross their land and they don't know who you are, you feel the strife.
Most of the people listening aren't going to know what you mean when you say cross their land.
Well, there's borders for all races. You have the Spanish border, you have the Indian border, and when you cross borders, you'll know what prejudice is.
But also the Indians there, the tribes there they literally had, some of them had their own land, their own large areas, reservations.
Right. And I've been to the reservations, and I see the hate. I felt the hate. I've heard the hate.
There's just a lot of problem with this among humans, isn't there?
You think the Indians like you, you think the white people like you, but then again, if there's Indians that don't like you as well as they didn't like me, there was many of them that didn't like me, I was beat up. I know what it's like to be beat up, and it's not a very good feeling. It makes you want to be very more prejudicial towards people.
But how can that happen? How can they beat you up? You're over at their house, or you're at school, or what?
Just being outside.
What do you mean outside? Where?
Like, for instance, at one time, we was at a waterway.
What's that?
A little water lake. I had a couple Indians throw they had bows and arrows, and they were throwing arrows at me.
Bows and arrows? What are you saying?
When you're young, they have toys. They have their big toys. I'll never forget, I had arrows thrown at me, and they hurt. They hurt.
Bows and arrows?
Bows and arrows, yes.
With rubber tips on them?
No, just the wood ends. I've been hit with them.
Isn't it interesting, though, that your son said, but I thought all Indians were nice? It shows you that the emphasis has been on, saying such nothing but nice things about some people, but we're all humans. I mean, you can't get around it. You are a human, the Indian is a human, the black man, the white man, the red man. We're all humans, the Chinese, the Japanese. We're humans.
We talk about race. I can understand why my mother left, because she felt the strife from this Mexican family. I understand why she left. And I understand why their marriage didn't work out, because they felt it on both sides.
Toby, you've said that to avoid complications, you don't usually let people know that you speak Spanish. Now, when you say you're Spanish, as we've already said, you mean that you speak Spanish. Okay, well, you keep that a secret oftentimes just so you don't have to fuss with prejudice. I'd like you to tell our students and the staffs that are out there, do you think that they should be learning this language that you keep hidden? Or just how far do you go to keep it hidden?
I think it's really important that someone does learn Spanish. I think it's very important, because I still study Spanish among my co-workers, and it's great to know.
You used to speak it all the time growing up, and you got away from it because of this pressure?
For a long time, I didn't want to speak Spanish no more, because there was just so much conflict with American people. It's best that I didn't even know Spanish, or I was Spanish, because I got along better that way.
I see. So you got away from it for how many years, would you say?
I would say around 10 years.
I wasn't sure a few years ago whether you knew Spanish because you didn't speak it much. You've lost a lot of the accent, the pronunciation, haven't you?
Yes, I really didn't want to speak it no more, because I just didn't want people knowing that I was Mexican, and I didn't want to have to feel the strife and the prejudice. That's the way it was.
Do you wish you wouldn't have lost that?
I regret that I didn't continue on Spanish for that 10-year loss, because I would have known a lot more as of today.
You're not the first guy that I've talked with who has forgotten so much. In fact, from down there, one of the guys was a Navajo and used to speak just like Tobias here. He used to speak his language, his Navajo language, all the time, up till about 12 years of age. He moved away, left the language behind. Oh, he really regretted losing his language, and he found out that you can lose your first language.
Well, that's true, because now I continue to read Spanish again, and I do write, and I do listen, and I learn new verbs.
Yeah, you
new
haven't
phrases.
lost it all, but
No.
you've got to work hard to get it back, don't you?
Yes, I regret that I didn't continue on that education of the 10 years that I lost. I think if I was to continue on what I was started 10 years ago, I would have been better off.
To help people really understand how severe such a situation can be, being caught in between cultures, you need to let me ask you a couple of questions and then answer them.
Okay, ask me.
Your mom and your dad, I'm not asking you to rub them into the ground, but your mom and dad were caught in between this too, weren't they? And eventually, they were gone. Was this a strain on your parents, do you think?
That marriage was conflict because both families, it was a very conflicted marriage because she was American, my dad was American, Mexican, and the marriage was not accepted, from both families.
And then she left one day. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yes. She left because she felt like she was unwanted. She was in the wrong culture. I don't blame her for leaving. It was a very stressful marriage because her being a white American and my dad being an American Mexican, there was just a lot of conflict among families.
One day your mother left. What happened there? What was that?
She left because there was a lot of conflict with my dad's family.
Well, how did she leave? You said something about she just pulled up in a car?
She got on the bus and she took off.
A bus?
That's correct.
I thought you said she drove up and told you goodbye. You were 7 years old?
Oh, that's when she returned the second time to come and visit us. And then the family ran her off.
They did?
Yes. Yes, they thought... It's very hard. It's not difficult to tell you. It's just that it was just not accepted.
Because she had left once, the family did not want this woman back in.
They didn't want to see us leave. They wanted for the best of us.
Oh, in other words, they wanted you to stick around there, even though it was a town out nowhere, because they figured they were dedicated to you and they didn't believe she was.
That's correct. That's right.
Was that a good choice?
For the most part, yes. They made a very wise decision. Because I don't know what would have happened if I was to leave.
When was the last time you saw your mother? How old were you?
I think the last time I seen her was probably when I was 5 years old.
Oh my. So this thing about being caught in between cultures it just sounds terribly painful and messy.
As long as you knew who your family was, I did fine. I knew that people loved me there. My father's family loved me, so everything was fine.
You really believe that strongly, don't you?
Yes.
Deeply.
Yes, I do believe that. Everything turned out just fine. You just had to forget about the people that were prejudiced.
So you don't believe that people should sit around feeling sorry for themselves or even angry about their past?
That's the biggest mistake you can make. You have to let it go. You have to let the prejudice go behind you and keep on going. You cannot let it bother you.
Are you a happy man?
Yes, I'm happy. I'm grateful from the experience that I went through being raised by American, Mexican family.
And you haven't even gone to see the movie Cars, probably because you lived that life.
I have never seen the movie Cars. When I get the chance, I'll see it, but I lived it.
I'm going to loan you the movie, okay?
Okay.
Muchas gracias por hablar con nosotros hoy con los estudiantes en
De nada.
muchas partes del país.